Hello, Internet. Today we're going to work with wovens, woven shirt, and woven pants. So we're going to adapt this sloper that we made last week into a blouse, essentially. I have given you a handout on the canvas to reference a few of them, actually, but this shirt one for reference, we're kind of going to make, I think, this shirt with the gathered shoulder seams. And then there's also going to be a yoke in the back. Let's jump in here. I've already drawn a couple of the darts using that handout for reference, some of the dart manipulation lines. Here we go. So we are adjusting it to have a wide shoulder dart. And that's going to be all that volume that gets sewn onto the shoulder. And let's add one more line as an example. So I added these using the internal polygon tool. And we are also just going to have a tiny shoulder dart. And I'm going to leave a tiny segment here, and that's going to allow us to merge this together, hitting enter to end the line. And let's go ahead and cut all of these. It's all going to get merged anyway, so sometimes using cut and sew instead of cut can add like extra lines, if that makes sense. So we are just cutting, and then we're going to go ahead and just like pop them right back into place. So we can do our dart rotation. First off, we got to close that side seam dart. That will make it match the back bodice. So it'll have no side seam. And theoretically then like the sides would be the same length. So if you double click on this center point and then move away from it, it should be orange. And then if you click and drag on it, you can move it to the pivot point, and we can pivot to close the side seam dart. I'm going to add this lower one to the selection as well, this lower left-hand segment, and double click on the pivot and then click and drag it. And just make this a little bit smaller, give us some extra volume at the shoulder. And then this sleeve seam dart, this armhole dart, just add a little bit of movement there. Okay, excellent. A little bit of ease there. We can then start merging these back together. So this has a bunch of extra segments. You can move them apart to see. So I can go ahead and delete some of those, and I can also delete these line segments there. And then we can select one line, hold shift, select the other line, right click and choose merge, and those will merge together. Excellent. And we can go ahead and also merge them with this this point up here, but we don't want it to rotate or anything at all when we go and merge them. So we should put them together first and click and drag on the anchor points to get the anchor points to line up, and then they shouldn't rotate when we have moved them apart a bit with the selection tool. And then I'm using the like direct selection tool to select one, hold shift and select the other, and then right click and choose merge, and that merges that piece back together. Same thing up here. We are going to use this little tiny segment I left. It's just 1/4 of an inch. Select one, hold shift, select the other, and then right click on the lines on the line and choose merge. And that didn't leave much, did it? Oh, we didn't do that step of making sure that they align without rotating the piece, and it did make a difference. So let's go ahead, and we're lining up that pivot point, and then we're using the, like, I think of it as the white selection tool in Illustrator, and we're moving that to that point and then moving them apart and merging them. So select one, hold shift, select the other, and merge. Be a lot easier with tape, that stuff. Okay, so now we have a merged bodice again, and we are going to go ahead and continue to delete anchor points until um, it generally becomes this shape. So we can start off by deleting this lower dart anchor point and this guy. And then we'll move this out until it matches up. We can also, oh, it's no longer mirroring with the right, so I'm not sure when it broke symmetry, but I am going to just delete all of those segments, and we can all, I just selected them and chose all the anchor points on the right half, and we can add those back in later. We can mirror it later. So same thing here. We don't need that point. We don't need this point. We can smooth this out. And we are going to excuse me, we are going to also lower this side seam. So we're going to extend this out like 1 inch. And we are going to lower this like 1/2 inch. And that has all worked out to create, I've skipped ahead a couple of steps, but to create this effect. Okay, so we actually were supposed to do that after we can use our imagination to add on to the yoke. All right, let's do the same for the back, and then we haven't extended it either. So for the back, let's delete, close that up. Yeah, no, just delete the shoulder darts. Supposed to extend this out a bit, and then sorry, I switched back to the front. Excuse me. And then we're going to, also extend this up. So back gets raised up a bit. Front gets pushed to the left a little bit on the shoulder point. And then I'm going to use the Edit Curvature tool, which is the better tool for editing curvature, to click and drag on this until it's generally smoothish looking. Okay, that's looking more like a normal armhole. And excellent. Yeah, then we extend back to the Edit Pattern tool, or Z, extend that out so it's straight, and move this over. Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be 3/4 of an inch, but we did 1 inch on the other side, so we will keep it consistent. Cool. Let's make the similar manipulations to the sleeves. So the sleeve gets extended, that 1 inch on either side and 1/2 an inch up, which I suppose is how much I raised those up as well. So let's do that. So I suppose these have to go out 1 inch, since that's what I did over here. So we'll just click and drag it 1 inch over, 1 inch over. You can see the number going up, and then I suppose the dart gets removed, and this gets cropped flat, so it doesn't have that curve anymore. So no dart. Is there a way to delete all of those curve points? Nope, wasn't that. I'm using the edit curve point tool, but if I zoom in and select them all, okay, and then we can also delete that center point probably. Cool. Oh yes, and then this gets raised up a half an inch. All right, it doesn't look great. Yeah, I guess I don't know, they have made a kind of pointy, yeah, because it's a blouse. All right. Oh no, half inch down. My bad. So commands Control Z. And then we can use the edit curve point tool to, the edit curvature tool to smooth these out as much as possible. It's easier to do it with this than to try to manipulate all the curve points that have appeared on mine anyway. And there we have it. So let's mirror that front. So we actually needed to split it anyway. So symmetric pattern with sewing is good for now, and it still places it on there. I'm going to reset the 3D arrangement of the sleeves so they don't get like all caught around her arm. But reset 3D arrangement. Cool. So they don't get all caught around her arm. And then I don't think we need to hit simulate yet. Let's keep making further further arrangements. I'm going to bring in the first the original sloper for a second. We don't want to save, we just want to add it to this. And I'm just going to use it for reference, so I'm moving it to the side, and I only need the front sloper. We are going to rotate the front sloper so it aligns with this, with the back sloper, and then we're going to make that extension so that we can have that like hang over, like extended shoulder look. We can rotate this by double clicking. Yeah, I'm using my black selection tool, double clicking on the pivot point and then clicking and dragging to move the pivot point there, and then aligning them. So yeah, this had a dart in it. Do they close the dart in order to do this? Or I don't know, they're just using, yeah, it just says refer to the front bodice. So we are going to extend this. Let's extend it by drawing a new internal, oh no, we'll just cut it off. Yeah, we'll draw a new internal / polygon line, and 1 inch from the edge, which you could measure. I like to do it sometimes by using the edit pattern tool and right clicking and choosing split. Split, yeah, I had to right click on the line specifically. Right clicking and choosing split, and then you can tell it that you want one of the segments to be 1 inch exactly. So that's one way of doing it. And we could do the same over here. So right click and split and 1 inch. And then I'm going to connect those. So click with an internal polygon line. I actually double clicked on the end to end the line as well. And then cut. Why rotate? Why rotate like that? I'm annoyed by that. Okay. You can rotate if you want. But we're going to rotate you back. Excellent. And I'm going to just extend this. That's what I've decided. We're going to extend that so that has the same slope as the front. I don't know. We could have just used our imaginations, but in that way we got the exact angles and everything, and select and merge it back together. Excellent. And then we are going to remove that from the back. So now I can delete this piece and this weird little extra piece I made. We're going to remove that from the back side. So we're going to remove an inch from here. So let's use that split technique again. So right click split, and we're going to tell it that this first segment should be 1 inch. Same thing on this side. Right click split, 1 inch. Excellent. And then draw a internal line segment between them and cut. Excellent. So then we can sew these line segments back together, because now they are not sewn together. Something is. There's like extra back. Okay, there we go. Remove that. Segment sewing. Oh no, it's only on that side. Okay, so that does happen sometimes, but you can just delete the segments on the other side and then select it and choose symmetric pattern with sewing and merge them back together. It's annoying though. Okay, now it has weird little darts on the inside. You could delete those with the dart tool, maybe? I don't know. You might have had to delete them first. Fascinating. Segment sewing. We are going to sew one shoulder to the other shoulder. Yeah, we made sure that that like notch was on the sides, was on the neck side on both sides. And with the edit sewing tool, I just like don't want her to be naked. I just don't feel like it. So I'm just going to delete the attachments to the skirt. So she'll just have a skirt on still. And then I think we're going to have to do some re-sewing of the sleeves. So yeah, because we extended that, let's extend it up there and then extend this past down to meet, yeah, where the shoulder is. I think. Let's see how it looks anyway. If it looks funky, we can adjust. And let's hit simulate. Ooh, something is still sewn. Huh. Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. There we go. Oh, much better. It looks great. We didn't extend the bottom, so we can select those lines right now. I find it more successful to select lines rather than anchor points in CLO. We're going to extend it those recommended 7 inches in the book. There we go. And then we are going to, let's fix the sleeves. They have a little blep in the sewing, so we will delete. That's from the leftover dart. So I don't see that happening on the side seams or anywhere else. And I think the sleeve caps look good to me. Cool. With the edit sewing tool, we can just click and drag on the ends of sew lines to adjust them. All right, those look better. The sleeves don't look full enough to me for the type of garment that we're trying to make. Oh, you know what? It's because they also shortened them because the cuff is happening. So let's slice off a bit of the sleeve, like 2 inches. double click to end the internal line, right click, cut. And should be same thing on the other side. Yes, we just have to delete it still. So that helped, and I may just widen it a little bit more still though. If you do it a little bit of time at a time, it shouldn't get too crazy. Okay. So we have done all of the basic pattern manipulation. You can see it is a bit gathered on the sleeve. It's not crazy gathered though. Let's try applying a woven fabric. So we can do that under fabric, and then let's do a cotton Oxford. And I'm just going to drag that onto here. And oh yeah, that did stiffen it up. And also for gathers, everything always looks better if you lower the particle distance. So we're going to go ahead and lower that to anything under 10 looks good. So let's do that, and it has to rethink. So I selected those pieces and found particle distance under simulation properties in the property editor. And now if we simulate, oh yeah, a bit more gathered. Oh, that's much better. Cool. All right, let's add buttons, etc., etc. Let's start with cuffs and buttons on the cuffs. So we're just gonna do cuffs with a slit. It does recommend that like you can add the slit in the sleeve somewhere like off to the back side. So just for interest, instead of adding the cuff like right at the inside seam, we're going to put it at the back side. So let's focus on the cuff and draw that internal line. So just eyeball it and hold shift, and we'll make it 2 or 3 inches long. Well, oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong number. So I should be looking at the lower number. Oh, it's hard to see with this fabric. Maybe not the best choice. Okay, that's better. And let's see how that looks. Oh, I drew it on the front side. All right. So then we can choose cut, and when we hit simulate, we should see this ball open. Gorgeous. So you can cut to an edge using the cut tool. Now we can add that a little rectangle. So if you want to, you can measure the circumference of a wrist. I wonder if there are edit measure for avatar. I'm sure there is an easier way to do it, but you can do it by just making multiple clicks around her wrists. So that's one way. So 5.3 inches. So let's make it a 5.5 inch wide rectangle. If you click and hold on the polygon tool, you get the rectangle tool, or you could hit S. And then if you click once with the rectangle tool, we can make a cuff that is 5.5 inches wide and whatever height you want. Let's go for a dainty little cuff. One dainty inch. And we are going to use the arrangement points. This is the way we can wrap things around her. So we can turn those on by hovering over the little avatar button in the 3D options menu and choosing the little blue dot guy. So then with this shape selected, and not using the edit tool, the measure tool, we can click on that blue dot, and then for something that's this small, it can also be nice to like move it very close to the wrist so it has a better chance of not intersecting the wrist with the sewing. So let's do that on the other side. Oh, sorry, right click, symmetric pattern with sewing. Excellent. And is this the, yeah. Okay. So this goes with this. It's always nice to give things a click like that. And then we need to then puzzle through this with segment sewing. So this is a bit tricky because we have like a section here that's overlapped and we want everything to kind of be gathered through there. But let's start by thinking with the free sewing tool. We're going to click and click for this segment, and that is going to start here. And you can actually, oh, if we can shut off the blue dots, you can see where your cursor is in the 3D mode with that little blue dot running around in the 3D mode. So that's how you can make sure. And then we are going to click and click, and I'm going to kind of leave like the same ratio. So if this is like a fifth or a quarter of, if the right is a fifth or a quarter of the left, then I'm going to try and leave like a fifth over there. Something like that. And then over here, we can click, click, and click, click. And so then that should all work itself out when it's sewn on. So let's choose simulate, gorgeous. And then we're going to add little buttons. So let's zoom in here. And then this also recommends top stitching, so I thought that might be interesting for you guys to see. The handout recommends top stitching. So we can grab the button tool first off. I love the button tool. It's very interesting. So if you click and hold on this central button tool, because there are like, there's the edit button tool and the fasten button tool. So with that central button tool, you can click to place a button, and then there's another tool for clicking and placing a buttonhole. So the side that you want under is the side with the button, because the button goes through the top layer. So even though you see the button on the top, the side that you want to go under is has the button on it. So I think this back side should be the side with the button. So can you click in 3D? You can. So I can click to place the button there, and then I can switch to the buttonhole tool, and I can click to place it on the other side. You can also do it in the 2D mode and get really precise. Make sure everything's even. And all of these sizes can be adjusted, which is what I wanted to demonstrate by making a dainty cuff. We can select the button over here, and then we can change the style of the button. Oh, I bet yours at school will have more button options because, yeah, I think mine's just like an old version. Same thing with the buttonhole. Do we have to use the edit button tool maybe? Yeah, there are other buttonhole options normally. That's strange. Because I swear I've done it before on this computer, but we will join them now. So if I just hit simulate right now, they are not joined. And then I'm going to use this bottom button tool, which is the fasten button tool, and click one and then click the other buttonhole. Sometimes you have to do it in the 2D mode, but you can do it in the 3D mode as well. And then you often have to kind of help the button out, help it pop to the front. And it can help to have this be two pieces. Unfortunately, it does add a seam, but You may be able to like join them back together after you've gotten things to be stabilized. So give me a moment to demonstrate. If we cut this in half, we can change the layer order. So right click split or cut. Yeah, and we can go ahead and cut and sew. And then we can tell the button side we want it to be on -1 layer and hit simulate. And then, yeah, this side does turn green, but now it's willing to be beneath the other side. Oh, you know what? It might also be that we just haven't left enough overlap. One of these sides needs to be, yeah, a bit longer. So there we go. Excellent. Yeah, we should have added like an inch to her wrist measurements. And with the, yeah, perfect. Now it's stabilized. I do wish we could make that button smaller. That's really ruining my day. All right, let's draft a, oh yeah, we were going to do top stitching here. And then I was also going to use top stitching to imitate a placket or facing, I mean, on the shirt front. So here we're going to draw an internal line. And then, yeah, so we're going to use the internal polygon line tool and then use the top stitching tool to apply it. So click, click, click to imitate like a turned back effects. Yeah, there we go. And then we can use segment top stitching and click on these lines to apply top stitching to it. And then now when we render, there will be beautiful top stitching there. And you can change details of the top stitching such as color and stitch count, etc. In here. So let's try to make the top stitching pink for fun. Apply, done. Yes, okay, so now you can see it better. Well, yeah, and that looks really nice when rendered. So we're going to do the same thing to kind of imitate a placket. CLO does not actually like when you do 2 layers of things. So if you need there to be a placket in there, I would recommend only doing it for like a quick rendering or photo shoot and not trying to do it during any type of animation or anything like that. So we're just going to, yeah, let's measure an inch. So right click, split, and choose 1 inch or 1.5 inch. And we'll choose OK. Then I'm going to draw a straight line up from there. So hold shift, click, oops. And then we can use that top stitching line, the segment top stitching to apply that. And that'll have top stitching now in the render. So it's now time to break symmetry if we want to add like an extended 1.5 inch placket to put our buttons on so that this keeps its like correct loose form. Otherwise, if we just added buttons here, it would be fine, but it would overlap and it would affect the fit. So we're going to use the rectangle tool, and yeah, I guess I'll just click and I'll make a 1.5 inch rectangle of any height, and then I will use the edit pattern tool to manipulate after I've lined them up. So we'll use this, and then we'll use the edit pattern tool and click and drag that up. And then segment sew these together. Click, click. Oh, and I guess we will use the blue dots, the arrangement points, to place it somewhere here. Excellent. we are also going to tell this that it is layer -1. So if you select it in the simulation properties, we can choose -1. And then I find that one of the best ways to like figure out where you're going to line up your buttons is to use the splitting method that I've already been using to measure a bunch of things. So we can do that, right click and choose split, and then you can uniform split it into the number of buttons that you want +1, I think. So if you want 5 buttons, you should type 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then those are evenly spread. So it is time to remove linked editing between these fronts because they are slightly asymmetrical. We don't need this placket line over here, for example. So right click and choose remove linked editing, and then we can select that line and delete it, so we don't need that top stitching. Then let's just hit simulate and see what happens. Yeah, this isn't, oh yeah, see it is, it automatically sucks under. Oh, and it's trying to go under the skirt. So let's go ahead and, I'm only keeping it on for her modesty, but we can select that and make that layer -5, in case there are any future layers. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Yeah, so it'll automatically get sucked under when we go to button it. So let's add those buttons. I split it evenly across all of those points. And yeah, I guess I was thinking though, like you could do it if you wanted the buttons to start and end, like, each 1 inch away. There is another option. So I could delete those and then right click and choose splits, and we're going to start the buttons 1 inch or 1 inch away from the beginning and the ends, and then split this into those 5 or 6 segments. So that's just that was my other thought. 1, 2, yeah, so then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buttons there. And I guess maybe for visual sake, you could add notches to them as well. And let's grab the button tool, or actually this top layer should have the button holes. So I will click on the center next to each of those notches. I maybe should have drawn a guideline in the center, but this is fine. And this bottom should have the buttons. All right. Wow, they look lovely. And then let us use that button closure, the fastener tool, and let's leave 2 buttons open and then fasten the rest of them. All right, and yeah, let's try hitting simulate. Okay, very cute. And you know, boring, but we're just practicing, and we're going to add a collar. So I have another handout for collars. And if you wanted to choose a more interesting collar, I think that would be absolutely fine. But I am going to just draft like a basic shirt collar, and we're going to use a fold line. So we're going to learn how to fold it over basically. And you could make the edge of the collar have like a scalloped edge or something like that if you wanted to add interest. But generally, we're just going to draft, burp, burp, burp. Okay, so let's start with measuring the front and back neck hole on this shirt. So if you select them all, it will add up your measurement on your cursor. So 7 inches. I need some water. Yeah, we'll just say that 7 inches even. And then we will add, we'll make a rectangle that is 7 inches wide and 3 inches tall. That's going to be the half of our rectangle. And then so center back to the shoulder notch is this front section, and then it starts arcing upwards to the center front point, and from there it tapers off. So we're going to measure center back to shoulder notch, and we'll keep it this standard shoulder notch since we made this front one smaller. So this is the baseline for the standard shoulder notch. So let's make a point that is 3.122 inches away by right clicking on the bottom line and choosing split and typing that in. So 3.122 inches. That's on the left. We can hit OK. There we go. And then the right should be the same as this, which is 1 inch added to this, which is almost 3 inches. So that should be almost 4 inches. Yeah. And it's a little bit short, so we can just nudge it. Nudge it until it's 4. Yeah, perfect. And we can raise this point up. Probably not that much. Doesn't matter. A half an inch. So you can do that by right clicking and choosing change length, and we can be very precise. So we now want it to be 2.5 inches high, so that minus that half inch. And then this gets nudged out into kind of however pointy you want the collar to be. And then this is actually curved in their draft. I've seen it just straight as well. I'm not sure it really matters, but we can curve it using the edit curvature tool, and then just like clicking and dragging that line, giving it a little bit of an arc. And then we're also going to draw our roll line here, and that's where we're going to turn that into a fold a fold line. So we are going to use our internal rectangle line, and somewhere slightly less than halfway I'm using Bezier curve points. So just draw in that arc and hit enter, and then let's make it a symmetric piece. So right click, symmetric pattern with sewing, and click to place. And then with the edit pattern tool on a symmetric pattern, you can just right click on one of the symmetric lines and choose merge, and it will stay symmetric over that line automatically. So there we go. And we are going to turn on the blue dots and click on the back of her neck. There's actually 2 points on the back of her neck, so if you choose the internal one, it gets a little tighter around her one. See, there's like 2 hovering right on top of each other. And then we can sew these on. So use the free sewing tool starting from starting from the center back to the right, and then on the back you can start from the center back to the right. Then we'll continue this little 1-inch piece of the back. We'll give that its own little segment, and then the rest of the front should be actually this side. Yeah, and then all the way down to there. Cool. And we'll hit simulate. Oh, right, because they aren't a symmetric garments anymore. We have to manually sew the front of the other side. So click there to there and there to there. Okay, not too bad. We can hit simulate. Cool, but she's got it popped, and if you just tried to like pull it over, it doesn't really love that. So we can give it a crease with this fold line. You may be able to get it to roll over. I'm not sure, but with this line selected, so let's actually reset the 3D arrangement, and I'll hit simulate again. So it's just flat, and I haven't messed with it. With this fold line selected, we can choose fold strength and fold angle. So if your computer is powerful enough, you can have simulate going while you sew this, or while you do this. And it actually is also helpful to select your piece and apply a bond to it. So I've rolled down to bond/skeeve in the editor, and we're gonna just leave it on a fusible lapel interfacing. So now that should be a bit stiffer. And then back to just having this fold line selected. If we hit simulate and have it selected, we can raise the fold strength and then adjust the fold angle. So I guess a lower number folds it one way, 180 is flat, and then a higher number folds it the other way, out to 360. And in this case, we are going to leave it at that high number of 360, and then now we should be able to force it down. This is like kind of tricky. Increasing the fold strength to maximum, and probably stiffening let me stop the simulation, maybe that's the problem. Yeah, increase the fold strength to maximum, and then we can also stiffen this fabric. So right click and choose strengthen, and this may help too. There we go. So I think strengthen was really the key here. Here she pops. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. Okay. Yeah, this is fighting itself. Maybe. Oops. There we go. we go. She finally stabilized. And so we have a basic blouse. I don't know, I might have something mis-sewn here that's causing this weirdness. I'm not sure. Maybe an overlap sew line or something like that, but we will leave it for now and move on. All right, let's make the woven pants. I have brought in the DXF from last week, except this time we're deleting everything but the pants. And then I also brought in a t-shirt for her, just for fun. And I can right click on the pants and choose symmetric pattern with sewing, except we made an extra waistband, so let's delete that. And then we can use the arrangement points, turn those on in the 3D mode, and click to place. So place the front on the front and the back on the back. Gorgeous. And then sew them up. So these have like a lot of stray segments in them, this DXF in particular, so I would encourage segment sewing. So segment sewing the front, the back crotch to the back crotch and the front crotch to the front crotch. And then make sure you have the right pants that you're sewing together. So these two, yep. And we can use, again, free sewing, highly recommended, because they have a lot of weird little segments. And same here. Make sure none of the lines cross through her legs or through her body. And then we can use segment sewing on these. So now, ignoring the waistband, we're going to hit simulate. Actually, I see some weird stitching on the shirt, so I will delete that. And the waistband is out there in space somewhere, but that's okay. We are going to make the adjustments to these pants that are recommended by the book, just, as a thought experiment. To make them fit closer to the body. So starting by looking at the front. So this, yeah, these are the front. So starting by looking at the front, we are going to raise the crotch point by 3/8 of an inch, bring in the ankles by 3/8 of an inch, and bring in the knee by 3/8 of an inch. So let's grab the edit pattern tool and do all of that. I have 3/8 is 0.375 inches. So we can aim for that. So this is going to get raised up 0.375 inches. I have a chart on my wall that has all of the conversions because I do use them pretty frequently in CLO. So 0.375 inches, 0.375, and then 0.25 at the knee. All right, so that's all of the changes on the front. So let's look at the back, and we can make the changes recommended on the back. It's just to demonstrate like how we would do this. So we are going to take the bottoms in by an inch. seems significant, but that is what it said. So 1 inch. There we go. And then it doesn't look like 1 inch on that side. Three-quarters of an inch at the knee, so 0.75. And then 3/8 of an inch up and 3/4 of an inch in at the crotch. Oh, I've been working on the wrong side. Just quick Control Z. So 1 inch in at ankle on the crotch side, 3/4 in at the knee, and then 3/4 in at the knee at the crotch, and 3/8 of an inch up, which is 0.375. All right, and then what about the outseam of that? So 1/4 of an inch to the left kind of makes it more straight, and then it tapers down. And I'm going to say that that's moved in the same 3/8 of an inch that this side is in. So I'm going to match C to this side. So 3/8 of an inch in, 0.375. 1/4 inch in at the knee. And a 1/4 inch out at the top outseam. And let's straighten that line. I'll use the Edit Curvature tool and just drag it in until it's straight-ish. And then we can do this final adjustment where we bring in the top 1/4 of an inch and the raise it 3/8 of an inch. So the top, Edit Pattern tool, 3/8 of an inch up, so 0.375. And then bring it in 1/4 of an inch, so inside like this, 0.25. All right, so that's all the recommended changes. It needs to be kind of smoothed out anywhere. Yeah, I feel like it just looks a little funky right there. So we will maybe we'll use the curvature tool to edit this lower part. Oops, that's the Edit Curve Point tool, the Edit Curvature tool. There we go. Let's hit simulate and see how that changed things. Tightened everything up. Oh, they look great. Okay. Fit nicely. Let's look at a fly and waistband now that we've made those adjustments. We have an extra sew line there too. Okay, that's just for fun. Let's make the waistband symmetric. I think that's, one option for ease right now. So I'm going to cut it in half. So you can cut it in half using the Edit Pattern tool and right click on one of the lines and choose Split, and then you can choose Uniform Split and it will be equal on both sides. And then we can draw an internal line that goes straight across and choose Cut. And then I'm going to delete one side and I'm going to choose Symmetric Pattern with Sewing on the other side. Eventually, we are going to have to extend one of these to be longer, so it won't be symmetric forever, but for sewing it's helpful. I don't know, so I just thought it would be good. And then we are going to use, I'm actually going to keep them separated. I'm not going to join them back together. I'm going to use the show arrangement points and place, yeah, one on one side and one on the other. Is this the back? Yeah, so we'll place that one on that side. Okay, and the other one pop to the other side. So we will sew them together using segment sewing. I can shut off my arrangement points. Segment sewing, oops. And let's sew them to the corresponding pants. So I lined these up, yeah, so those line up. We have to use free sewing to, and we start with the smaller segments when we're free sewing. So we don't want to sew the dart like onto it flat. So that's what we have to go one little segment at a time. So click and click on that segment and then click, and then that blue dot means that this will be exactly that length. So then the second segment, click and then click from that dot at the end of the last segment on the waistband and work your way around. And then over here, click, click, and we can actually see the cursor over there. We can continue around that way. So now when we hit simulate, it should all sew up. Gorgeous. That's not sewn right now. We're going to add a fly and a button, but there, that's the waistband sewn with it open on the front. Now we can draft a fly. So this is still the front, yes. And we can look at our pants and jumpsuit reference and scroll down to the fly. So we're going to make a separated fly, but that's the shape, that J curve. And we are going to grab the polygon tool and draft that shape. So it's like mostly a rectangle, and it's going to be as long as this segment that goes down to this first like turn. Yeah, it can be however long you want. It doesn't have to be that long, but that's how long I'm going to make it. So we can, using that as a reference, but I'm drawing a new line. I can click and drag to get this corner J curve and then come up to the top and click to close it. Yeah, then you can make adjustments as you need, I suppose. So if you wanted this to be a specific, let's make it 1 inch wide, then you can do so. Okay, so this is going to get sewn onto this side of the pants. So let's place it there. So we can click it, and then we're going to use arrangement points to just kind of like generally get it here. Beautiful. And then let's sew those together using segment sewing or free sewing. And we can also go ahead and remove the sewing from that first segment. So with the edit sewing tool, I can edit, actually we want to edit this sewing that goes all the length of the J curve, and we can lower this down. So now she's going to have her fly open. Beautiful. So we just need to extend the waistband. And we are going to do that by, probably the easiest way is making a little 1 inch wide rectangle. So we can click and drag a box that is the same size as this. Why doesn't it like show me the dimensions while I'm clicking and dragging with the rectangle? Because it does when I go ahead and make adjustments with this tool. So we can get that to snap to the exact width of the waistband, and we can make this exactly 1 inch wide. So it may be better to click to make a rectangle where you can put in the exact dimensions, and then we'll merge these together. So this is a nice way to do it instead of just extending this rectangle, which is an option. This box is a nice way because it doesn't mess up any of the sewing we've already done. So now we're going to merge these together. We may, yeah, at this point, the linked editing will be eliminated. So we can right click, click one line, hold shift, click the other, and then right click on the line and choose merge. And it's merging off into space somewhere, but when we hit simulate, that it should snap down. It snap down a little crazy, but that's okay. And now we can sew those to the fly. So we're going to use segment sewing and click, click, and now she has a normal fly. And now, like, we've already done buttons, so we can just apply some buttons. So I'm going to use the button tool. The button goes on the under part, which is the area with the fly. So we will put a button right here in the middle. And then the buttonhole goes on the other end of the fly, so way over here. I guess we can move this over here. We need the buttonhole tool, and we can click and place that right in the middle. And I can kind of use the numbers as a guide, and then we can fasten them by using the fasten button tool. So click on one and click on the other, and then when we hit simulate, those are joined together. I do want to tell it that this left side, so this is part of the reason why I left this waistband not merged together. I'm going to tell it that, well, it's her right side waistband should be on -1 layer, and then it should go down below. Yeah, see, and it did snap down below. And same thing with the fly bands. We can go ahead and make that layer -1 as well. And then, you may need to pull on the button or something to make it pop to the outside, because sometimes it does want to be on the inside. And obviously her fly is still down. So we are going to zip that up with a zipper. And the zipper is a little bit finicky, but I have been able to get it to be quite successful. You know what might be part of the problem here is that we're still working on this like default fabric. So I am going to choose denim, or I'm going to go to fabric section and then try to choose a denim fabric. And I'm just going to click and drag that on to fabric one. And that actually did help a little bit. It also maybe is just not. Doesn't fit her. It's too small. And then we can also, I think, may be helpful if we stiffen these. So like right click and choose strengthen. Yeah, that's helping as well. Cool. So that will get better once we actually put the zipper into her. That's my dog yawning. I don't know if you could hear that. We are going to grab, well, first off, we need to actually draw a line on here, and we need to put a sew line on here. So, and actually a top stitching line as well. If we right click on this shape, we can choose clone as internal shape, and we are going to use this to get that J onto the right side of the pants. And this is actually one where now we need to remove linked editing on the front of the pants. So I'm going to right click and choose remove linked editing because we don't need this top stitching here. And we can make these into that top stitching. So click, click, click. Is the top stitching still pink? No, let's make it pink again. So that will put that top stitching on there and get that J curve like a real real jean. And then I'm going to sew the bottom of the J of the fly to the bottom of the J of this internal line. And we can hit simulate there. Yeah, perfect. And so that is helping bring us together. And then the zippers have dimension, just like in real life. So you don't sew the zipper to the direct edge of the fly. So we need an internal line to sew the zipper onto. So about 1/2 inch away from the edge, so pretty much right in the middle, we are going to draw a line there, and then we're going to use the zipper tool to connect that line to this outer line. And I kind of found that going like not all the way to this sew line on the bottom was helpful, and also not going all the way to the top was helpful. So something like that. And then same thing on this side. Why? Maybe we have to double click to end that line. Yes, there we go. And then the zipper gets put between them. And right now it looks like it's like on the outside of the fabric, but it should snap in. So I'll hit simulate. And it snaps in. And I actually think like this looks good. Then I found a few things we can do to make it look like better. Number one, none of ours are poking through right now, but if your bottom clasp or your top clasp is poking through, you can right click on the zipper and choose show/hide, and you can hide the top stopper and you can hide the bottom stopper if you want. We could also, like, I can undo that. We could make it really accurate instead by making the bottom stopper like a particular shape. So if you select it, you can tell it that it's a closed end zipper and that the bottom closed end and that the bottom stopper is like as small as possible. And you can also make the top stopper small. So those are not showing on mine. So to get the puller to stop showing, there's a couple options. Number one, you can make the puller smaller. So where it says gauge, and so I've selected the puller, and then you can change like the shape of the puller too. So you could try changing it to like a less conspicuous shape if that might help. And then you can make the gauge of the puller smaller, so you can adjust like that. And then the puller is still in there. It actually looks like kind of the right size, but it isn't visible. And then if you want, so if I leave this on 100 instead, if you want, you can also raise the collision distance of your fabric. So if I select this piece, I can scroll down to simulation properties. I guess I didn't have to scroll. You can find simulation properties and choose additional thickness collision. And we can raise this. And actually, if you have the simulation going while you raise it, additional thickness collision, you can see it's pushing away from things that are colliding with it. So you can just raise that, and then it will push away from it. The problem is like it will create kind of like a bubbling effect that sometimes. So it just depends on what you want. I feel like it's probably better to just like make the zipper smaller, but I think it kind of depends on what you're going for. So I'm going to go ahead and lower that back down. It's automatically set at 2.5. And something I found, yeah, and then I'll just lower the size of this zipper to like nothing. So we'll make it 10% of its standard size. Yeah, so now it's invisible. I guess I can still click on it. It's really small. The other thing I found to make like this look a little bit better and like line up a little bit more cleanly, we've stiffened everything, but if you use like a leather setting or just make the fabric a lot stiffer, um, it it looked even better to me. So it's just kind of a cheat because you wouldn't really make the pants out of denim, or sorry, out of leather, but if we select the denim raw in the fabric and scroll down to physical preset, we can change it to leather. But there is a raw leather or something. You can change it down here without changing what the fabric looks like, so it can still look like denim but have like that stiffened property of leather. Let me search in here for what it's called. Trim full grain leather. So you can change under physical property the preset to trim full grain leather. There it is. And yeah, look at how much better everything lines up now because it's all just like stiffened. So that's kind of a cheat, but you may have more control over like things like interfacing and stuff on the real life garment. Okay. Yeah, so that's how I got basically. Let me show you the difference between having it on trim full grain leather, or if I hit just Control Z. Or on just cotton twill. Yeah, actually all of that like looks a little bit better. So that's with the denim raw selected. And then I think that's pretty much everything I have kind of asked for. Buttons, collars, sleeves, cuffs, fly, waistband that opens on the front. All of that's awesome. But we can now take renderings. When you go to take renderings, though, you do want to stop stiffening things and stop using the layers. I don't know, I think it doesn't like that, or at least it doesn't like that for animation. Let's see what happens if we try to render it with that stuff. Yes, we have to shut off the simulation. It's compiling kernels. I think we should have also added top stitching on the bottoms and on the sides. So maybe I'll do that really quick, but I'll render as an example first. There she is. Yeah, so I guess it doesn't matter. I really wish I could change that button. I could change the color of the button. I mean, you can't even do that. I don't know. Oh, okay. okay, so I had to do it through this button menu. That's my bad. So I selected the button menu like a fabric from up here under the button menu, and now we can tell it to be a jean button or something. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's so much better. And we can tell it to be metal. Cool. So when we hit simulate, all of that should be visible, and like the stitch lines should be visible and everything. Oh, they look so good when they're there. So all of that's pretty cool. Yeah, so before we render, so then I would hit stop if I liked it, and then I would hit play to actually render. Before we render though, just really quick, we can add top stitching to things quickly by choosing the line with our edit pattern tool, and you can right click and choose offset as internal line, and you can offset by a specific amount. So if we want like a 1/2 inch seam, you can do that and hit OK, and then you could grab the top stitching segment tool and click, and that would add the top stitching. So same thing on the other side. You can copy and paste internal lines. And on the backs, yeah, and then that might be something that's good to do on the side seams as well. So we could select all the little side seam segments and right click and choose offset as internal line and hit OK. And then we could use the segment sewing tool to make sure that those all have top stitching on them. Yeah, that'll look really nice. Yeah, we could probably merge these back together now if you didn't want that seam there anymore. So we could select and right click and choose merge. And then you could use right click offset as internal line for the whole shape. And we could do like a 0.25 inch top stitch around the whole waistband. Then we have to apply that top stitching. So just something to keep in mind. It's a nice level of detail. All right. I will render it and share those renders with you, but that is how we can make a woven pant out in and a woven shirt in CLO3D.